great first day yesterday. We explored the new rules of digital leadership and discussed how to shape the digital future together. Today it's time to dive into more relevant issues and raise the burning questions of the time. It's time for the second day of Digital Leaders Annual Summit, so welcome. Our first speaker today is the co-founder and co-CEO at H-Farm. H-Farm was the first company in the world to choose a model formed of both incubation and acceleration activities for young businesses and digital transformation services for traditional enterprises. He also serves as the executive member of the Art and Technology Council at the Vatican. He's fascinated how technologies impact our daily life and what about their influence in the society and cultures. We can truly call him a digital leader. We are honored that he is today with us. So please welcome Mr. Maurizio Rossi.
Thank you, Catalina, for the nice introduction. You said almost everything. So what I'm going to tell you, it's basically about my experience of this 12 years journey in creating an environment for the next generation, the next tech-native entrepreneur generation, and eventually the dream to get his environment, getting possibly a village, or find ways to scale on a larger dimension. So I will use some information of H-Farm, not to tease it, but more as an example about this mission and how we created this sort of subset of ecosystem. So I want to start with a short video that it's our day life. It gives you a little bit a glimpse of the regular life of this environment. As you can see, we are into farmland. We're just in the outskirts of Venice, a few minutes from the airport. It's like half an hour ride by boat and you reach the main island. And this environment is gathering together from students to startup executive running events. You see those little cubicle houses just hosting startup. This is the educational center. That's where the school are. You're gonna see now also some kids. That's the high school. This one is one of the two restaurants. You see this one is the education center. This is the guest house where we run most of executive retreats. This was interesting. It's a 3D animation center. We train people for Pixar. That's one of the part of the accelerator. We have two large buildings that host program for accelerator. That's the this is a co-working area, and together with a larger we have 3 different halls for conference and meetings. As you can see, we located this place. It's a awesome place. It used to be 30 years ago in a short list for Euro Disney. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so we can build our Tech Disney. And it's let me get here. Okay, so H-Farm. So we need to go back to 2005. 2005, with this mission to build this environment, we found the natural way was to create an incubator. 2005 was really early age of the new digital economy. If we remember, Facebook was still in beta, and most of the successful companies that are surrounding us with disruptive companies, a number of them didn't just came out later. YouTube was 2006 and so on. So from 2005, over 12 years, we kept changing every day, every month, every year, and tried to understand um, how to fit our incubator, how to fit our mission according with our domestic ecosystem. And we started to learn about the ecosystems overall because we are not in the Silicon Valley, we are not in Israel. We are in Italy, we're close to Venice. We are based in Europe. It's completely different ecosystem. So that incubator just been transformed in the past couple of years when we went public in about a year and a half ago, and we transformed it into an innovation platform. We found that Europe has amazing values among the differences, but there is a huge difference between Europe and the Silicon Valley or Israel. It's about the density. We lack of the density of the high-tech economy. We have everywhere in Europe very great entrepreneurs, great startup, great technologies, but most of the density is based on traditional companies. I define them low-tech companies. So we redesigned and we got to say, why not building a platform that connect those two different worlds? The startup ecosystem with the young entrepreneurs, that's a different culture compared with the corporations, those low-tech companies that needs to transform themselves thanks of the connection with the startup ecosystem. So these are the model we structure. It that's the I created this chart to explain probably a little better how we define a model and how we got this sort of system working together. You see startup, you see the bullet. So startup is our core. Is that we come from over 120 startup founded in 12 years. So that's our core in somehow. And we know the startup are made by young people. Everybody can do a startup, but tech startup are really driven by the next generation, really driven by the youth. And those young people, if you consider in the planet, I think in between the generation Y and Z, we have at least a couple billions of young people. So we consider the education become the most relevant aspect to change the world. Because we need to work on the education. There is a connection between the educations, fostering the next generation, getting them doing the startup, and the startup can engage the transformation for corporations. So, as I told you before, Europe is a large territory with a number of values. The economy of Europe has a number of clusters. We have manufacturing, we have automotive, we have fashion, we have design. So it's Europe, it's a special somehow, but needs to be transformed. It has to be transformed by young people that we have to take care of with education, and then we help them to support through startup and find a way to create a connections in order to engage a transformation. Because we will have every year some great successful startup that will disrupt an industry and possibly they raise tons of money and becoming unicorn and becoming really a game changer. But it's not that every year we have 50, 60, 100 unicorns succeeding like reinventing something. And most of those young entrepreneurs, they need in somehow to connect also with existing companies because some of them will crash and some of them will react. Some of them will be able to react positively. So there is a kind of new market, of new ecosystem around that. So according with this structure, we converted a model from an incubator that used to be an equity-only business model. So not possible to get an equity-only business model to sustain a platform that involves hundreds, and possibly thousands of people. because especially being public, we need to figure out numbers. We need to show up a business. So we hybridized the model. So we keep doing investments, but also we created two main arms, two main division of business. That's a P&L business, basically. One is called industry. That's all the business we drive toward the corporations. And the other one is the education is a business for us. It's both. It could be on a CV school or non-CV school, but it's private school. We backed also with our own foundation, but that's P&L. So this model, hybridizing this model, we've been able to create a sustainable platform and also be successful in the stock market. So I give you a quick glimpse about the activities that are around. So the industry, as I told you, is our activities that we address to the corporations, to transform most of industries. So we have a team. It's about 220 people, and they work to redesign, reinvent the process. It's in between the consultancy, the advisory, but delivering, because it's directly connected with our accelerator that have a number of different programs, because we want to help the corporations to engage the open innovation, basically. We want to encourage them to find their innovation, their future outside, going to meet the startup and help them to avoid the cultural clash that comes in between the young entrepreneurs and the traditional companies that are usually closed. So we have a number of activities. We have a think tank, the acceleration. We're working today on the fifth program, and all this comes in a pretty unique way. The education, as I mentioned, is probably the most important part because also bring an impact, also has a social impact. So we found pretty interesting disruptive model around the world, but all they are just in clusters. We found an example, alt school in the United States is great, but that's only for early age. And then there is some good example in the high school or some good example to disrupt the university. And we consider three elements, which is extremely important for the education. One is, of course, technology. I don't mean computer science only. It's like building engineers, but those kids need to be very conscious about what the technology is able to do it, because they are tech native. So they cannot be self-taught technology students. The other one is humanism. We come from Italy. Humanism, creativity, Leonardo da Vinci. It's Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Those people have a strong component of vision, strong component of creativity, thinking out of the box. So those two elements has to be combined to really help them to be much more disruptive. And the third one, it's entrepreneurship, becoming self-entrepreneur, because we know that the workforce will change in the future and the individual will become much more independent and has to be much more entrepreneurial. So these three elements we thought to distribute in a path that engage from the preschool age to the, let's say, master's post university. So that's why inside our campus we are developing all the school and the schools. We approach in two ways. CV, so there is a curriculum, and the curriculum is an international curriculum. So especially in the high school, we can attract students from abroad come to study. So you can have your diploma, IGCNC, International Baccalaureate, and a bachelor for the university. So it's something which is recognized everywhere in the world. But we want to get them growing up within an ecosystem to making the startup and to making the startup for business. And also we offer programs that are not within a curriculum. That's for those students, especially around the area, that doesn't want to enter into an international school curriculum. So we can leverage together weekend, summer camp, holidays, after school, and they can get access to a number of those courses and activities. Another thing that we developed during the years, and we are now counting, this year we have probably reached 240 events. It's every day we have situation like this one. So it could be private corporate events, could be on conferences, can be hackathons, boot camp, whatever. I see a bunch of people every day that I don't know. And that's bring a value because students can get access to them or to a good part of that, except of the private ones, and as well the startup. And often startup comes to on the stage and they get involved to show up what they're doing to, I don't know, corporations. And this is another good component that building somehow lifestyle around. So just recently, we did an acquisition. That's a Smau. I don't know. I don't know if you know about it, but it's a one. It's very old brand. It's a 50 years old brand. It used to be the first technology trade show in the world. We have to go back to the Olivetti age, so prior than Apple and the Silicon Valley. And it used to be a trade show for the offices. So it has been revamped by a friend of ours a few years ago as a domestic event. So it's nothing that you might recognize from international, because it's a domestic event. It gather like 20, 30,000 people once a year. And we just acquired this one because our idea is to develop this one into a technology lifestyle show. So try to get, we know that the technology is the new pop music for the young people. So in the past, we used to listen rock music when teenage, and now teenagers, yeah, they keep listening music, but technology and internet is their new music. So try to dress the technology less in a geek way and more, because in the next 10, 20 years, technology will become more part of our lives. So it will be not geeks or engineer stuff, but it will be on our daily life, especially if we consider on the young generation. So try to imagine like bringing more Red Bull lifestyle to technology. And that's what we aim to do it with this company. I give you a little bit some numbers just to continue my journey. So after 12 years, the incubator that we started, today it's engaging roughly, we should get by this year around 1,000 people. We have at least 600 people involved into the business. So among startups and professionals, we today have 300 students. We invested about 25 million euro on a portfolio that's over 100 startups, and half of them are still up and running. We invested in the core business, so no real estate, not the development of the structure, but just in the core business, already 55 millions. And every 12 months, 18 months, we raise more money to expand it, to scale it. In 2010, 2009, 2010, after 4 or 5 years, myself and my co-founder, we decided not to pursue the way this is our company. We probably could make much more money, keeping Rage Pharma much smaller and getting as our company, because we have very good competence. But I think we can bring also social impact. We can bring also, there is a responsibility to change the countries. And we are located in a very economic performing area. It's the northeast of Italy. It's unemployment zero. There is a highest rate of entrepreneurship. A lot of corporates are based there. And we have the perception they are getting old. And we have a very good idea, and we want to help the young people. So at some point, we say we need to get this getting bigger. And we have to consider it as a platform. So we are the founder, we are also shareholder, but let's open this. That's the reason why we listed the company. And reason why we are now jumping to the stage 2 that I'm gonna show you just here. that the program, our plan, 2015, 2020, that's the next 3 to 4 years. Actually, we tried to achieve this goal earlier. It's to build the Age Campus as the mothership, and then starting to scale Age Farm around the world to define a format that we can scale it. So the Age Campus, it's the extension of about 40 hectares. So today the footprint is 17 hectares, and this campus that I'm going to show you before closing a little video, it's an extra investment of about $100 million only on the real estate, because everything has to be built, and it will host 3,000 people. 2,000 are students, and the 1,000 is going to be business. And with the education, we consider this like the R&D. We wanted this become the R&D center. We are actually working to acquire a number of schools. Our idea is to buy 20 different schools, not just in Italy, even outside Italy, and try to aggregate 20, 30,000 students and offering them our model to get an international curriculum, but with immersion of technology, entrepreneurship, and creativity. So we are very. This is very ambitious, but we're on track to do this one. We're just starting now the operations to build. This is going to be ready by the end of 2018 and half of 2019. And I show you here quickly the render of the video, how this comes. That's amazing. It's designed by the famous architect Richard Rogers. In all the right side, it's coming all the school. So that's all education. And in the left side, we have the business. So in between, you see this module, this large. This is a main hall. This kind of holds about 2,000 people. It is going to be the crossing point. This will be open to the public. So even today, we started to open to the public. We're starting with the restaurant, so everybody can walk in. And this one will offer co-working, open. This is going to offer restaurants, going to offer sport activity. So try to get this becoming part of an ecosystem. Try to be a spontaneous location that over the years, every day, work to capitalize and to consolidate the values. Because the two things that never changed in the 12 years are our mission and the dream. So everything else really changed through those 12 years. Every day we keep changing because we act very fast. We do so many mistakes. So for us, do a mistake is just experiment. We listened yesterday a lot about this one. So it's just do something. Probably the result is not what is expected, so we consider it as a mistake. For us, it's not a mistake. They say, "Oh, this doesn't work. We have to tune a little bit." So for us, it's part of the culture. You know, we're surrounded by startup. They come day first with a lot of hope, and at the end of the program, only few has a real hope. Other has to pivot or to find different solution because it is the life, you know. And this is what we do it. That's how Age Farm from an incubator, where in the first 4 companies, we just invented them because nobody were knocking the door in Italy in 2005 to say, I'm an entrepreneur, want to do a digital startup. So our first startup, we're just calling Age Art, Age, almost Age. It's, oh, there's something wrong. It's all startup. And we were bringing someone to say, hey, you become founder for this one. And nobody were investing, so we're to putting all the money. So that was our life and coming out here. But we never miss the 2 points, you know, the dream and the mission, to be inspired, to say we want to create an environment. So today it's much easier to explain. If you walk in there, and few of you are friends of mine that comes often, you walk in there and you have this feeling, you know, you come there, it's a kind of comfort zone for those people who are not coming from the tech culture, approaching this new generation. So that's why I say we move from an incubator. And so my question, because unfortunately I cannot be with you this afternoon for discuss the question, but the question I want to give you for the table, it's well, this is an example. This is one way, and Andrei can tell us about Russia, how they did it with the Skolkovo. So what other ways are possible to help the combinations or to have sort of contamination from the young startup cultures to change the world? We have 2 billion young people to help, to support them, because they will own the world. They will own their own life. We cannot pretend in the future, 50 years, they're going to live with our models. So what ways can be used to influence more the old culture without avoiding just a clash? Finding ways that can be helpful to say, hey, wow, this is good, you know? Thank you.